Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to a new series here on the channel. This is actually going to be a Pokemon Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battle series. It's not going to be like the other ones, or like the past, like Subnautica and Monster Hunter World. It's not going to be a regular series on the channel. It's just going to be a battle once in a while, no regular schedule. Probably more so towards like Wednesday, Sunday uploads, but it's nothing is certain. So yeah, this is also a test type of thing. The camera actually looks fine just now, but it's kind of hard. Like, I got a new webcam. I'm testing it out, trying to figure out how all this is going to work. Facecam, by the way. Hi, this is what I look like. This is me. And yeah, this is just going to be a preliminary episode. It's going to be a pre-recorded episode with post-commentary, so bear with me. I know it's not the best kind of commentary, but I've had this battle recorded for like a month. Back when I first got the video capture software, I actually have the box here. The little AGP Tech, this thing. Yeah, back when I got this, I decided to test it and record a battle of Pokemon with actually a good friend of mine. And that's the battle you're going to see shortly. I just wanted to actually show you guys the team before that battle starts. So, like I said, this is a post commentary, pre-recorded, all that nonsense. The team is a little different now than it was back then. So again, bear with me. Actually, I just realized I'm completely unprepared for this because the team is not even all there anymore. I've made changes to it since. So, what change did I make? Oh right, I got rid of the Hippowdon. So let me just bring the Hippowdon back real quick to show you guys what the team looked like at the time. I'm going to replace this Hippowdon with this Bronzor, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So this is what the team looked like at the time of the video. I had Ferrothorn, Hippowdon, Arcanine, Milotic, Froslass, and Sableye. Now this is a very bizarre team. This is not the kind of team you would normally expect, because this is, in fact, for a VGC team, it's a Hazards team. You can see my moveset here. In the video, you'll see Ferrothorn actually has Spikes instead of Protect. But, after a little more testing, I realized I didn't need this thing to also have Spikes. Froslass does the Spikes stuff really well. But we'll get to all that in a second. So yeah, Ferrothorn with Stealth Rocks, as I said, Spikes, not Protect, Leech Seed, and Gyro Ball. And this Ferrothorn is, in fact, max HP, max special defense. Although Ferrothorns have better physical defense naturally than special defense, I ended up going with special defense on this one just because the way that the typings end up working on this team. But I'm debating it. It could still go either way. It's just, for Fairy and Psychic types, special defense is so much better than physical defense that I just wanted this thing to wall them really well. But, again, I could be completely wrong on that assessment. So that's the Ferrothorn. Of course, Iron Barbs with the Rocky Helmet, very standard Ferrothorn set. And then, Stealth Rocks Spikes, Leech Seed for that residual recovery, and Gyro Ball, which here you can see actually has 8 PP. In the battles you're going to see, it only had 5, and it actually came into play, which is why I decided to up it to 8. But yeah, that's Ferrothorn. Then we have the Hippowdon, which I'm going to swap out, like I've mentioned. It's max HP, max defense, yeah, just standard Hippowdon set. Slack Off for that recovery, which is the reason I actually picked Hippowdon originally, but the Sandstream ability was really, really biting me in the ass. Oh, right, and it doesn't have an item right now, but it used to have the red card as an item, so it would take damage, force somebody to swap out. That's really useful against, like, Dynomax Pokemon and stuff, which is where the idea for this Hippowdon came along. But the Sandstream really didn't work with the rest of the team, so I ended up cutting the Hippowdon. But yeah, with Slack Off, Roar, so this, again, Roar, this is going to be a very bizarre team, very, very bizarre indeed, for the VGC metagame, because it does have Roar tactics, Roar Whirlwind style tactics. So you set up hazards, the idea being you set up hazards, you roar them out a bunch, you Dragon Tail them, that kind of thing, they take additional hazards damage, and you end up killing them all at roughly at the same time, where they're just taking 25% damage every time they come in, you keep forcing them out. Quite a nice gimmick, but it ended up being a little hard to pull off. You'll see in the battles coming up shortly. But yeah, Slack Off, Roar, High Horsepower, and Stealth Rocks Hippowdon. Then you have the Citrus Berry holding Arcanine with Intimidate, of course. max HP, max special attack, and the reason for that is because it gets both Heat Wave and Snarl, which you can see there. And that allows me to clean up, after there's only 2 Pokemon left, I can't force them to swap out anymore. This allows me to hit both at the same time. It's reasonably fast, it takes hits pretty well, and yeah, and then just Heat Wave and Snarl, good moves. Heat Wave is stab, hits both Pokemon, has a chance to burn on each. Snarl lowers special attack. Oh, just nice and convenient. And then Protect and Roar, similar logic. Protect is really good in VGC, and Roar is just Roar, right? Works with what the team is trying to do. And then you have the Milotic with Dragon Tail, Life Dew instead of Recover. And the reason I chose Life Dew is because most of this team doesn't really have any natural recovery to it, which is a problem I need to actually fix if I am going to make this team work. Although, honestly, I suspect just by the nature of VGC and you only having 4 Pokemon to deal with to begin with, it's really good. It's going to be really hard to make this team work. Really, really hard indeed. But yeah, Dragon Tail, Life Dew, Protect, and Scald. Again, just a very standard set. Dragon Tail, to, again, force Pokemon out. Nothing much there. Much like Roar. Just in the final iteration of this team, only 2 Pokemon are actually going to have Roar or Dragon Tail. These are going to be the only 2 remaining ones, this Arcanine and this Milotic. And that's because Bronzong doesn't get that move, and I actually have something else I want to try with Bronzong. And I might... I don't know if this team will be coming back in a future video, honestly, so saying all this doesn't really necessarily matter, but I'd like to believe that it could matter. So I'm just adding in the detail. Again, I might do something else with this team. It's a team I would really like to make work. But yeah, leftovers on this Milotic and Marvel Scale, because competitive is kind of pointless in a residual damage team. Marvel Scale, you'll see in just a little second, I actually have 2 Pokemon with Will-O-Wisp. So if I can use them to burn my Milotic, then Marvel Scale will double my defense. And you can see there, it's actually a bold max defense Milotic. Max HP, max defense. So again, just a little boost because I can to its defense. But this Milotic I actually think needs to be reworked as well and be made specially defensive with the Marvel Scale. Because it wasn't taking grass or electric type moves well at all, which was a very big problem. So again, probably will be reworking this Milotic. I'm probably going to have another episode with this team, to be fair, at some later point. And then finally, we have the 2 support Pokemon, really, on this team. We have first Froslass with, of course, the Focus Sash, a very Froslassy item. Not meant to take hits that well. I actually might need to rework the EVs on this Froslass, because you can see here, of course it has Cursed Body, because why would I give it Aurora Veil? There's no point, this team doesn't use Hail. But this Froslass is also part of the reason why this team didn't really work with the Sandstorm Hippowdon. Because, you couldn't bring them both at the same time, or the Sandstorm would just pop the Focus Sash, and that was counterproductive. And you really do open very often with this Froslass. You can see I've given it max HP, max speed, which I'm honestly a little iffy about, because it has, here are the moves. Oop, hang on, there are the moves. Icy Wind. And because it has Icy Wind, I might want to make its max special attack. Just because since it already has the Focus Sash, it doesn't really need the extra health. It usually lives okay, even from super effective hits, without the Focus Sash right now, because of that max HP. So, probably don't need the max HP, but I also don't really need the special attack. So, I don't know. This one's debatable. I think I will probably just leave it as is. So it can take 2 hits on occasion, as opposed to only taking the 1, right? But who knows? So yeah, Icy Wind, Will-O-Wisp, of course, Spikes, and Destiny Bond. And this is really what the Froslass is here to do. Turn 1, set up a layer of Spikes. Maybe he ignores it. Maybe he realizes what I'm trying to do. Turn 2, tries to kill it. It gets brought down to Focus Sash. I now have 2 layers of Spikes up. And, hang on 1 second. There we go. Oh. Okay, that's... Hang on. There we go. Now, suddenly, I have 2 layers of Spikes up, and then he's, like, panicking. Oh, no, he's going to get max layers of Spikes up. I've got to kill this thing. And then it goes for Destiny Bond and, takes out something with it. And now suddenly I have 2 layers of Spikes and Destiny Bond up. And I could have burned something along the way if he ignores it for long enough. Icy Wind, just for that, again, hitting 2 things is really useful. Lowering speed can be quite good as well. Ice is a really good offensive typing. Just a bunch of reasons. I really like this Froslass. This is the best Pokemon on the team for sure. This and the Arcanine are the 2 MVPs of this team for sure. Although I do like the Ferrothorn, it's been underperforming. The Hippowdon was terrible, like I mentioned. The Milotic I haven't really got a chance to make work yet, but I think it might if I fix it. Again, if I fix these EVs on it. But whatever, you know, Milotic. And then MVP Froslass. I was so impressed by this Pokemon. I was not going to have it, because I've tried offensive Froslasses in the past, in single battles, not VGC, but still. And they've really, really did not impress me. They felt very, very underwhelming. But yes, I like this Froslass a lot. And then lastly, we have the Sableye. Now, as you'll see in the battle, this Sableye is really hard to play. You can see it has Protect there. It originally had Ally Switch, but Ally Switch with its item, Eject button, as you can see there, doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. There was a couple occasions where I wanted to Protect with my Sableye to scout, to figure out what my opponent was going to do, so that later I could trick the Eject button onto something, force out a Dynomax Mon, and I just wasn't given that opportunity because I couldn't safely keep my Sableye from taking damage, and it ended up backfiring massively. But yeah, max HP, max special defense Sableye, pretty standard set, Prankster of course, and the reason it's on this team is Quash. Because it has Quash, what it means is that you can actually, so it had, in the video you've seen, it had Ally Switch, Trick, Will-O-Wisp, and Quash, relatively standard set for a Sableye, but the reason for Quash is because Quash works with Dragon Tail and Roar. It does in fact mean that if you Quash something and you Dragon Tail or Roar that same thing, it doesn't get to use its move. And that is massive, that is huge. It's just, I can't begin to express how useful that is in this kind of stally, laggy, you know, the team that just doesn't really want to take damage. And of course the Trick is important because I really do need something to force out the Dynomax Mon once it happens, and being able to trick an Eject button is really, really useful for those specific situations. But yeah, that's the team you're about to witness. Like I said, Bronzor will be an addition to this team over this Hippowdon, but haven't had the chance to do that yet. It's been like a month and I still haven't had the chance to do that yet, but whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed the battles. I'll leave it here for the pre-battle commentary, and yeah, see you guys in just a second. Alright, so let's go into this battle. As I've mentioned, this video is done in post commentary, just because I recorded this video like a month ago, back when I was testing my new capture card, and it's just been sitting there for a while for me to have the opportunity to actually record this with Facecam. Because the quality isn't great, but it is what it is for now. I'll figure out lighting some other time. This is all new to me, so yeah. So let's get into this battle. So like I've mentioned, this battle is actually against a good friend of mine. It's not on ranked or anything, but I don't think this team is viable for ranked. So you can see there he has a Berserker, Reuniclus, Appleton, Indeedee, Sylveon, and Bronzong. And single-handedly, this fucking Reuniclus was the biggest problem for me here. Because Reuniclus gets Magic Guard, so it can't actually take damage from entry hazards or status effects. And that's, of course, what my entire team is based around. So I was just looking at the team and thinking, well, what actually works against his stuff, right? If he Dynamaxes, for example, the Berserker or the what's-his-face, then I'll probably need the Sableye, but I always open up Froslass. I have to open up Froslass with this team. And I'm hesitating there to bring Sableye, but I end up going Ferrothorn and bringing Sableye in the back. Why did I do? Let me see if I can recall why I did that. Oh yeah, because if you look at his team, most of his team doesn't want to deal with Ferrothorn, right? I mean, Berserker's probably a physical attacker, so that'll... but yeah, Berserker's probably a physical attacker, while the rest of his team is special. And my Ferrothorn is actually specially defensive, and he has a lot of Fairy and Psychic types, which I want to take advantage of by having that Ferrothorn there with the double resistance. If I could have brought in Sableye, but Sableye is only really there for when he Dynamaxes something, so I don't, for example in this situation, I don't presume he'll Dynamax either of these Pokemon, so no real point in opening Sableye. Of course, Indeedee with the Psychic Terrain is quite terrifying, because Reuniclus hits like a truck. But yeah, so turn 1, my play is simple with Froslass. I just go for spikes. That's what Froslass is there for, it's to set up spikes. Now, with Ferrothorn, I actually have some... I actually need to hesitate a little. I actually need to think about this. So I could go for Stealth Rocks, but my Ferrothorn is probably the slowest thing on the field because it's minimum defense. Minimum speed. So if I go for Stealth Rocks and next turn he just kills me. He can probably two-shot me with the Reuniclus. So I try going for the Leech Seed there to start getting some chip damage on that Indeedee and actually allow my Ferrothorn to survive a couple hits from that Reuniclus. It's a risky play, but wait, did I go for? I'm still getting used to this whole system, so let's see what I actually go. I think I went for the Leech Seed. I should have gone for the Leech Seed if I didn't. Also because the Indeedee, of course, has Follow Me. You know, that's what Indeedees do, unfortunately. So definitely that was a consideration, and I would need to focus that Indeedee because it's just going to probably follow me anyways. But as you saw there, it actually went for Mystical Fire and did like 40% to Ferrothorn. That was really bad. But thankfully that Focus Blast missed, and I did manage to get my Leech Seed up. If that Focus Blast had landed, that would have been game, I'm pretty sure. Because my Ferrothorn would have gone down, and it would have just been really rough to come back from that. But yeah, Leech Seed gets back a solid like 20 points of health there, and I can just keep going for spikes with my Froslass, which is still the second Pokemon, like the first Pokemon to go first here, right? And now here I have another option. I can either go for Stealth Rocks, but I'll probably die to a Focus Blast still from this range. And I'll definitely, especially if he goes for like Psychic and Mystical Fire, I'd probably still die anyways. So what I'm actually thinking is if I Dynomax with that boost in health, I will most likely live whatever he does. I can get another Leech Seed recovery off, then all my status moves become Max Guard, so I get to stall out a bit, get some extra Leech Seed damage going, keep setting up spikes, and then with Steel Spike, if he does not follow me, which at this point I didn't think he would, because turn 1 he didn't, you know? Which was bizarre. I kind of expected him to, turn 1, but now that I know he has Mystical Fire, I'm just like, okay, well in that case, let's actually Dynomax and target down the Reuniclus here. I think that's what I did. Yeah, exactly. So there we go. Yeah, Dynomax my... I don't know why my Ferrothorn isn't a Quick Ball. I don't, but I like it. You know, it's not the quickest thing, but I like that. But yeah, Dynomax the Ferrothorn here, and then because like that Reuniclus, like I've mentioned, it has Magic Guard, right? So I can't deal damage to it with entry hazards anyways, and with my usual Roar Dragon Tail tactics. Just stalling him out that way. Or at all, to be honest. The Helping Hand there is kind of really scary, by the way, also, because that means Focus Blast will probably kill me from that range, but he misses again. He thankfully misses again. So because of that, I get this Steel Spike off and do a clean 40% to Reuniclus. But like I've mentioned, this is the only way I can deal with Reuniclus is with these max Steel Spikes. Once I'm out of Dynomax, the Gyro Balls aren't going to be doing any damage to Reuniclus, of course, because Reuniclus is slow as hell. And my Froslass, as you can see, has Icy Wind, but that's not going to be doing that much damage either. So I can really only Steel Spike for damage on the Reuniclus here. Again, now I'm taking a risk. I could have gone for Max Guard there, but he hasn't been going for Follow Me yet, and I don't think he wants that damage on his Nana, his Indeedee yet either. So I do just go for the Max Steel Spike there, expecting him to just go for like a Mystical Fire, in this case a Helping Hand again. Although honestly I think Mystical Fire might have been better there, because Mystical Fire can't miss if I'm not mistaken, so... Froslass is just doing its thing, setting its spikes. So the spikes are, you know, ready to go now. And the Reuniclus finally lands, but because of all that Leech Seed recovery, I do actually live that Focus Blast. So that suggests to me that I would have lived the Focus Blast the previous turn as well, if it had come to that. But yeah, no, defense going up doesn't actually matter here, of course. But having +2 defense on my full HP Froslass is quite. It's good to, you know, it's good to have. But Froslass has the Focus Sash, of course, so that's not the most relevant thing. Now here, I just really want to kill that Reuniclus. So I go to Icy Wind to try to do that as I protect with my Ferrothorn, because I'm fully expecting him to try to take out my Ferrothorn here, right? Or perhaps he'll predict my Ferrothorn to swap out, but either way, he's going to attack the Ferrothorn. So I'm going to Max Guard the Ferrothorn here, and just see if I can't take out that stupid Reuniclus. But this is where the entry hazards start being weaker, right? I mean, one of the Pokemon's already at 50%, the other one, so in the Reuniclus, of course, is nearly dead. And ideally, I want them all to die kind of, you know, one after another, as they come in and take more damage from the entry hazards. But with Reuniclus can't take damage from entry hazards, right? It can't. So what that forces me to do is actually take him out, and then when he only has 3 Pokemon left, it makes it a lot harder for me to keep swapping him out. If this were a 6v6 instead of a 4v4, of course VGC is 4v4, which is why we didn't do 6v6. But in 6v6, this strategy would be a lot more effective, because he wouldn't have this advantage of being limited by how many Pokemon he still has left. Because from the moment that he has only 2 Pokemon left, that's it. You know, I can't use my entry hazards for shit anymore. There he actually tries to take me out with Mystical Fire, which I'm not sure would have killed me, actually. But that goes into the Protect. And the fact that he set up the Trick Room there, because he is, of course, a Trick Room team, means that my Ferrothorn is now faster than both of his Pokemon on the field. Or at least he was, but I do believe I went for the Icy Wind there, so that's no longer the case. The fact that Icy Wind didn't kill the Reuniclus is really bad, because it forces me to go for another Icy Wind here, and I'm just expecting my Ferrothorn to go down, so I'm like, ah, fuck it, Stealth Rocks. You know, Stealth Rocks will do. They'll do the damn thing. Like, like I said, because I'm faster now, or I might be faster now with the Ferrothorn, although the Icy Wind slowing down the Reuniclus might mean the Reuniclus is faster than me now, which it is, as you see there. It doesn't actually matter. If my Ferrothorn goes down, which it does not, it does survive the Psychic, so the Leech Seed putting in the fucking work there, making sure I get these Stealth Rocks up. And then he actually went for the double down on the Ferrothorn just to make sure that the Ferrothorn actually died. Which, you know, kudos to him, good play. If he had taken out the... with the Psychic, if he had taken out the Ferrothorn, then, of course, the Mystical Fire would have just gone onto the Froslass. So, all things considered, it was the correct play for him. But getting the Reuniclus finally to go down there with that Icy Wind is huge. Because I knew, of course, it was unlikely that my Froslass died that turn, so I could finally take out the Reuniclus. So now I've got to choose between Sableye and Arcanine. So, going into Sableye would be if I expected him to bring in something to Dynomax immediately. But given that the Indeedee is on the field, and given that the Indeedee is probably faster than my Arcanine, because my Arcanine is not max speed, well, the Indeedee doesn't necessarily have to be faster, but yeah, in case also if he brought in, I don't know, he could have had the Appleton in the back, he could have had this Berserker in the back, and all things considered, getting the Intimidate off has the value against his Berserker, and also now I have a Fire type against his Steel type, so that's quite useful. So with Froslass, I don't know what I was checking there anymore, but with Froslass, so yeah, I can swap out with Froslass. So swapping out with Froslass means that I'm predicting that he'll go for a Max Steel Spike onto it, probably. So he'll Dynomax the... Sorry, not Max Steel Spike. I'm predicting that he's going to focus down the Arcanine here and ignore the Froslass. So I'm trying to get a clean switch in with my Sableye so that he'll Dynomax his Gremlin, his Berserker. And then with my Sableye, I can actually use the... I think it's an eject button that it has. I'm pretty sure it's an eject button that it has. That's what it's called. And then I can switch that item onto him with Trick, Prankster Trick, of course, and cause him to swap out in that way. So Froslass goes out, Sableye comes back in, but he does actually, I wouldn't say necessarily predict this. This was a very dangerous swap on my part because it's relatively unlikely that the Froslass goes unscathed, and honestly I'm still getting familiar with this Froslass and the notion that, with the Sableye, and the notion that if I get hit on a swap, then I get myself swapped out, which is terrible, of course. But here, instead of him, so yeah, Arcanine protects, because I fully expect him to target down the Arcanine with the Berserker. And then Max Darkness goes into the Arcanine, like I expected. Barely does anything through the Protect, which is fantastic. Of course, I am max HP Arcanine, so didn't expect it to do that much damage. Also, he's intimidated. But then Nana actually goes for Mystical Fire onto my Froslass slot, which I was not expecting at all. And that forces my Sableye back out, which is really bad for me. I swapped out Froslass because Froslass would never go down this turn, and I didn't expect him to target it, like I said. But the fact that he forces me back out, and I lose the ability to send out his Berserker, force out his Berserker, is actually really, really, really bad. Because now, yeah, Nana's nearly dead to the Leech Seed, and I'm stuck here with a Froslass still in Trick Room. So Froslass is just going to Destiny Bond here because I think this is the final turn of Trick Room. If it's not the last one, then it's the one before that, right? It's Trick Room's nearly over now. So if I'm still getting used to the camera as well. This is my left hand, this is my right hand. It just fucks in my head. But if the Trick Room does run out here, if the Trick Room dies, then I do get to burn God damn these fucking dogs. I do get to burn the Gremlin next turn, because next turn I'll be faster, right? So Destiny Bond is just kind of like to make sure that, you know, if whatever happens, then my Froslass, you know, takes something else with it, and but it doesn't really matter, all things considered. But Max Knuckle into Arcanine does very little damage there. Hyper Voice doesn't affect Froslass there. Arcanine takes a lot of damage from that, but that does trigger my Citrus, which is good because that brings me back up to a range where I can definitely take another Max Knuckle or Max Darkness. And Heat Wave luckily actually misses Nana because I didn't want to kill Nana, because that way I keep getting the Leech Seed recovery, and it crits Gremlin, which is huge. I don't think it would have killed without the crit. I am max HP, max special attack, I think, but still I don't think it would have killed without the crit. So the fact that that goes down is really good. Now he only has one Pokemon left, which unfortunately means that that's it for my hazards. My hazards won't do anything else except another about 40% to whatever comes in. But that's fine. You know, hazards did 80% in this game. I think that's okay. Like, it's a 40% split between two different things. It's not great, but I think that's okay. And his last Pokemon is in fact Sylveon, so he has used this Dynomax. And the Sylveon, I don't think there's any way that the Sylveon can kill my Arcanine. Between Sylveons, you know, of course, can only really have Fairy or Fire-type moves in Mystical Fire. So I should be okay here. Just for the sake of chip damage, I do go ahead and Will-O-Wisp the Sylveon and just protect the Scouts for what he's going to do. I'm pretty sure he's going to be focusing my Arcanine here. So, you know, get him to waste a little turn, get a little extra Leech Seed recovery onto that Arcanine slot, get a little extra chip damage on the Sylveon. That's what this team is all about. It's about stall. And I really wish that I could make this team work. I really, really do. It's a really cool team idea, I think. It's just not... It's just not going to work realistically in VGC. Simply because, like you saw, I took out two things and now the whole gimmick of my team doesn't work anymore. But if it weren't for the Reuniclus that he has, then this team would actually work a lot better. I do believe. Just because, like, Reuniclus, I can't swap him out. I can't force him out. So the whole Roar Dragon Tail tactics just goes through the window, you know? So I do go for the Protector over the Arcanine, which is fine. Hyper Voice from this thing, yep, exactly. That's what I was expecting, when, of course, doesn't do anything to Froslass. He does actually go into the Froslass with the Sylveon, lowering my special attack there. But that's fine. I had the Focus Sash anyway, so I would never have died from that. And I do get the burn off on the Sylveon. I could have actually gone out into Sableye on that turn and saved the health on my Froslass, but whatever. And yeah, and the Indeedee goes down to the Leech Seed there, a little more recovery on my Arcanine, and that's just the writing's on the wall. There's nothing you can do here. There's no way in hell that the Sylveon's ever going to kill my Arcanine at full, you know, which is still at full health at this point. And I just go for Destiny Bond because why not? You know, if he tries to kill me again, then the Sylveon goes down. Also, the Sylveon, I think, has Mystical Fire and Hyper Voice. Well, we haven't seen Hyper Voice, but every Sylveon carries Hyper Voice. So if he does go for Hyper Voice here to try to kill me and take a little damage on to Arcanine, or just, you know, do stab damage on the Arcanine instead of Mystical Firing, since they're both resisted anyways, then the Froslass goes down and he goes down with it. So, like I said, here the writing is in fact on the wall, and if I'm not mistaken, he just concedes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was game one. So we did do 3 battles, even though I'm not sure I recorded all of them. We'll have to see. But yeah, so that was game one. And I'm not and yeah, I'll cut back to when the next battle starts. I'm not sure exactly when that is. Alright, so we're back. And I think the webcam's probably a little darker now, but whatever. It's just because you know, it's been quite a while since the previous episode. So you can see I'm just selecting the same 4 Pokemon, but in a different order for the second battle. I figured he might try to Dynomax straight from the start. So I just decided to open up with Sableye. Also because in the previous battle, it was such a pain in the ass that my Sableye got forced to swap out when it came in. I just wanted to make sure I could open with it this time around, although as you shall see shortly, that didn't really work out. But I was kind of debating whether I should bring maybe my Lodic for the... I can't remember what for, actually, but just because my Lodic's physically defensive, but I do remember I was debating my Lodic. I think for the Berserker, but the Berserker was fine in the previous game, so I decided not to in the end. So let's get into this then. He opens Berserker and Reuniclus this time around, and I do in fact open with the Sableye, as opposed to the Ferrothorn. And of course, like I've mentioned, I have to always open Froslass. Froslass is the best Pokemon on this team, surprisingly. So here I actually think that he might Dynomax the Berserker. I do believe that's the read that I make. Or... let me just see, I can't remember, it's been such a long time since I actually did all this. Let me just see. Or do I read the Will-O-Wisp, actually? Not read, sorry, do I go for the Will-O-Wisp? So, okay, so if the thing is, if I do go for... okay, so I do go for the Will-O-Wisp. By going for the Will-O-Wisp, I am actually saying that, okay, whatever, you can force my Sableye to swap out. I will take the trade between your swap and, like, I'll let you, you know, force me out and waste my item in exchange for burning you. But he actually goes ahead and swaps out the Berserker, as you can see. And burning the Sylveon is not irrelevant, because it does do that, I believe it's like 6% chip damage a turn or something. But he goes for the Trick Room with his Reuniclus, and that's quite scary, because now my Froslass is in fact slower than all of his, both his Pokemon now. And of course in the previous turn I just set up spikes, but this turn I am thinking here that I need to start doing damage to that Reuniclus. So I'm debating going for the Icy Wind, but if I do that, then my Ferrothorn will no longer be faster than that Reuniclus, so that is something to consider as well, that I should probably hesitate on. Ultimately, I think I probably do just go for Spikes again, maybe Destiny Bond, to make it so that my Froslass gets a free turn. But no, I do go for the Icy Wind in the end there. And I trick onto the Sylveon, expecting him to Dynomax the Sylveon, to go for Max Starfall onto my Sableye there. However, so I do go for the trick, like I mentioned, that way he won't be able to force my Sableye out, but he has the Assault Vest. The Sylveon has the Assault Vest, so now my Sableye is completely useless, although it does mean it can live this Energy Ball, and I think it also lives this Hyper Voice. But yeah, the Sableye can't actually do anything now because it doesn't have any attacking moves. So the fact that he did go for the Hyper Voice there makes me wish that I had gone for the Destiny Bond on my Froslass, because if I had, then my Froslass could not, it would be immune effectively next turn because he couldn't target it down. But by going for the Icy Wind and Trick, that means that his Sylveon is therefore forced out. And that's effectively what I was going for. So with that combination between Trick and Icy Wind, I can force something out. But unfortunately, he didn't Dynamax the Sylveon. I'm imagining he predicted my play there, so, you know, good for him. Now I'm in a tough spot. So with my Froslass, I could just go for a move, but it probably dies. So I figured probably what I should do is just swap out. And between the Berserker possibly going for a Steel-type move and the Flubber with the Reuniclus most likely just going for a Psychic-type move, I figured, you know, Ferrothorn's my best bet. On the other hand, with the Sableye, I just go for Struggle, just let it die. He does actually target down the Sableye, and the Sableye does in fact go down, thankfully. I don't know why he targeted the Sableye. The Sableye was useless at that point, but so be it. And the Berserker does a lot of damage with that Iron Head, which suggests to me that it's probably actually a banded Berserker. But he takes both Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet damage there. So the Berserker has already taken a lot of chip damage just between the spikes and now the Iron Head. Or rather the Iron Barbs Iron Helmet combo. Now I can go into my Arcanine, further lowering that Berserker's attack. And he is probably expecting me to Dynamax my Ferrothorn again, which you can see I am contemplating doing. But if I do Dynamax my Ferrothorn, then that'll leave me in kind of a weird spot where, you know, my Ferrothorn's already at nearly half health, and I can't set up any more hazards. So instead, what I do decide on doing is that the Gremlin's probably not going to be doing much. Both of us currently do resist the Iron Head, and it did kind of look like he might be locked into it, and the healing would be nice. I can't actually remember what I did, so bear with me. So those would all be reasons to go for the Leech Seed onto the Berserker then. Also, if he does swap back out to Sylveon, so that he's no longer locked into a move that both my Pokemon resist, and because he is in fact intimidated, all those factors combined would mean that the Leech Seed is quite good here, and I think that is what I ended up going for there. And then that leaves me with the option to Dynomax my Arcanine and just go for a Max Darkness onto the Reuniclus, which is quite important there, trying to take that Reuniclus with raw damage. Now you saw, because I am Dynamaxing first, that his Berserker is not going to be swapping out here, which was surprising to me, must admit. Effectively meaning he's not worried about that Berserker. But yeah, Reuniclus goes for Psychic, does a ridiculous amount with a crit to my Arcanine. I guess he might have expected me to max guard with my Ferrothorn. Also note that my Ferrothorn didn't go first here, but that's because I Icy Winded with the Froslass, so that did come back to bite me. If he had Focus Blasted my Ferrothorn there, Ferrothorn would have actually gone down, and he would have been in a much better position. So he doubled up on the Arcanine, but luckily, because of the Dynomax and the Citrus, I'm still at a reasonable 40-45%, and Flubber takes a ridiculous amount of damage there. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I needed to happen. So special defense drops are quite useful as well. Although my Ferrothorn is of course physical, the Arcanine, as you have seen, is special, so now we'll be doing a lot more damage to the opposing Pokemon. But still, given how much damage that first Psychic did to my Arcanine, I am kind of worried here that my Arcanine will go down to a second Psychic. So I probably, if I'm remembering correctly, yeah, I just checked there that it was the last turn of Trick Room, which it is. So all I have to do is go through this last turn, and then my Arcanine can just clean up with Snarl or Heat Wave or just another Max Darkness, because now that I think about it, I'll still be Dynamaxed by then. But yeah, so I'll probably end up max guarding with the Arcanine just to protect it from that Psychic, and as you can see, I'm just going to set up Stealth Rocks to further damage my opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Further, you know, on when they switch back in, because I think he still has Sylveon and something else in the back. So this Stealth Rock is worth at least, I think it does like 12%, right? On a neutral hit, it does like 12.5%, so it's worth like 25% over 2 Pokemon right now. Like, so 12.5% on each. The Leech Seed is giving me a good amount of recovery. He did in fact try to target down the Arcanine, so Ferrothorn is basically back at full health. Twisted Dimensions are back to normal, so Ferrothorn is now faster than the Flubber. And I can just go for Spikes here very safely. Or, yeah, because I already have Stealth Rock, so I can just finish setting up Spikes here very, very safely. There's no point in Leech Seeding Flubber. I don't think he'll swap out anything here anymore. Everything is on very low health. And I can actually finish off the Flubber with either a Max Darkness or a Max Flare. They would both kill from this range, for sure. And realistically, I should have gone for Max Flare. I was just trying to check what he might still have in the back. I should have gone for Max Flare to boost the power of my Heat Wave. And you'll see it actually comes back to haunt me in a little bit. But I do just decide to go for Max Darkness for some reason. Honestly, that was a misplay on my part. There's no reason whatsoever to go for the Max Darkness here. Definitely should have gone for the Max Flare. I just want to make sure that the Flubber goes down. God damn that Reuniclus, that completely destroys the whole point of this team. And, yeah, so, again, the Choice Banded, what's this thing called? I always forget. Berserker. Choice Banded Berserker with Iron Head is literally not doing anything, so it's not a concern in any way whatsoever for me. Spikes, you know, now I think there's 2 layers of Spikes and 1 layer of Stealth Rocks. Well, there can only be 1 layer of Stealth Rocks, but yeah. Stealth Rocks and 2 layers of Spikes on my opponent's side of the field. And, yeah, I'd imagine now he brings in Sylveon to try to get a Mystical Fire off on the... Yeah, there we go, exactly, Sylveon to try to get a Mystical Fire off on the Ferrothorn, because as I recall from his team, between Focus Blast and now Mystical Fire, those are really the only two ways for him to hit Ferrothorn, and if he had Indeedee, he probably would have opened with it, so I didn't at this point suspect that he had Indeedee. My best play, I believe, would probably have been to actually go for a Leech Seed on the Sylveon, but Gyro Ball, being super effective, was probably going to do a really good amount of damage. And Arcanine can just protect. Arcanine isn't doing anything this turn anyways, it doesn't matter. I could go for Heat Wave and probably kill the Twinkle Toes, but I did, which actually is no longer Assault Vested, because I did get rid of his Assault Vest with Trick from Sableye. But there's no real point to it. Hyper Voice comes out, does very little damage to my Ferrothorn. Even if he had Mystical Fired, I think it would have done like 40% at most. So he is really trying to kill this Arcanine, but not being able to do so, of course. Gyro Ball comes out, basically kills the Sylveon as it puts it in burn range, and the Berserker is literally just giving my Ferrothorn health at this point. It's just there for that Leech Seed health recovery. If I were him, honestly, I would have attacked with a Berserker into my Ferrothorn a long time ago, just to have it die, so that Leech Seed wouldn't, because between Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet, it would have probably died this turn, if not the previous turn, if he had attacked into my Ferrothorn. So if he'd done that, then Ferrothorn would Berserker would in fact have stopped giving that extra health to Ferrothorn. Now his last Pokemon is actually the Appleton, the appropriately named Cobbler. And I hadn't actually seen this thing yet, but obviously I have good reason to believe that he will in fact be Dynamaxing it this turn, because he hasn't Dynamaxed out anything yet. So, or Gigantamax even, although, because he's my friend and all, I do know his Appleton is a Dynomax, not a Gigantamax. But still, there's not much I can do. Just try to hit it hard, basically. And yeah, he has a difficult decision to make here, because again, does he just keep trying to go for this chip damage on the Arcanine? Does he think it'll matter? What exactly is he doing here? So let's see, yeah, the Appleton does get Dynamaxed, as predicted, and then, I love the way this thing looks, with the little ears, the little donkey ears just flapping open, so cool. It is so cool. I actually really like this Pokemon. I thought it was really stupid when I first saw it, but seeing its Dynamax, I really like it. I do go for the Snarl there to lower its special attack. Of course, Appletons are notoriously special attackers, more often than not. So he does go for the Max Wormwind, and I believe that kills my Arcanine, yeah. Arcanine goes down, unfortunately. Not much I could have done there, at all. So, yep, he is at -1 special attack now, and Gyro Ball did absolutely nothing, and that's a big problem, because also, as you may have noticed, I forgot to PP Max before this battle. So I only have, like, what, 3 Gyro Balls left at this point. And so I'm not going to be doing any damage to this thing. Now, I do have the Icy Wind, but because, Ice type right there, he is a Grass and Dragon type, even though this thing does get Thick Fat, so Ice type moves do only do regular super effective damage instead of 4 times effective damage on my Froslass, from my Froslass. I figured he'd be scared of it, so I do go for the Destiny Bond. He does not attack it at all. He actually attacks my Ferrothorn, keeps lowering my attack, which is a big problem for Gyro Ball. Big problem for Gyro Ball. And yeah, I'm doing literally no damage. So I don't have a choice. There's literally nothing else I can do with Ferrothorn. All my hazards are set up or don't matter. I can't Leech Seed this thing. I do decide to go for the burn with Froslass here, because I'll at least get a little extra chip damage in. But he, again, just keeps going after the, as I recall, he just keeps going after the Ferrothorn, doing very little damage. That actually looks like it might have been a crit. I think that might have been a crit. Maybe? No, it would have said already if it had been. So no crit there. Gyro Ball still doing very little damage. The burn does help, and yeah, exactly. That's the last turn of his Dynamax. So now he is back to just regular Appleton. Still though, I have 1 Gyro Ball left, and there's no point in doing. I can't do anything else. Like I have made changes to this team since that day, by the way. It will probably upload another thing at some point. But here I figured he probably just really wants to take out this Froslass, right? The Froslass is the biggest threat to him. So he, if he tries to take it out, I can maybe catch him on a Destiny Bond. Although having already revealed Destiny Bond, there's a few mind games going on there. And this is where the battle turns really stally. it takes a long time for this battle to end. It nearly went to timer. If I had been playing this on ranked, I would have stalled out my turns to make this go to timer and win in that way, because I still have 2 Pokemon, he only has the 1. But here he reveals Recover. And him having Recover, I have no chance of killing this thing. That's my last Gyro Ball gone. It did like 5 damage. The burn did more damage than the Gyro Ball, so I really am in a tricky position here. I'm just gonna be using setup or whatever, because it doesn't make a difference. And here I'm like, okay, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. I'm just gonna go for the Icy Wind, and if he dies, he dies. If my Froslass gets taken out, it gets taken out. There's nothing I can do about it. But I do go for the Icy Wind, at which point he actually reveals, you'll see here shortly, he actually has a weakness policy. So now I'm kind of shitting myself. Now I'm like, oh no, I might have just signed my own demise. I can't even win on timer now anymore, probably. Because he probably can kill my Pokemon at this point. But he goes for Apple Acid, and I'm like, okay, Froslass is dead. But he goes for Apple Acid actually on Ferrothorn, lowering its special defense, which is a valid play. But still, I guess he's afraid of the Destiny Bond. I did talk to him at the end of this game, and we did realize that he wasn't aware that in this generation, actually I think in Gen 7 as well, they changed Destiny Bond so that you can't go for it 2 turns in a row. And because of that, he had actually a couple opportunities to take out my Froslass that he did not capitalize upon. And he should have won this game just by taking out my Froslass and stall recovering out my Ferrothorn. I couldn't have touched him, so I would have just conceded. But because he didn't do that, he just didn't realize the way Destiny Bond worked in this generation. He ultimately, I think, here I go for an Icy Wind again, reading that he hasn't attacked my Froslass yet, he's not going to do it again. And I nearly take it out, very, very close to taking it out, but I do think he goes for a Recover here. Yeah, there's the Recover, so nothing. At this point, I'm thinking literally the only way I'm ever going to kill this thing is by getting him to attack my Froslass on a Destiny Bond turn. So I do think I'm just going to, go for Destiny Bond at this point. I don't know why I'm even choosing the different moves. It doesn't make a difference with my Ferrothorn. So I'm just going to keep going for Destiny Bond on every other turn, hoping that he slips up or makes a bad read. And I think he just keeps attacking the Ferrothorn, as I recall. I mean, I know he never ends up taking out the Froslass, but yeah, the Ferrothorn is getting quite low now, which is concerning to say the least, because once, it's just Cobbler versus Froslass, he probably does win. He probably is capable of making those reads. Here I go for Icy Wind, even though, or do I? Do I go? Yeah, I do. Because I can't go for Destiny Bond again, so there's no point wasting the PP there. But the fact is, by doing this again, I'm opening myself up to getting taken out. And once more, he should have won this game, like fully on board. I should not have won this game. That turn 2 with Sableye, where I tricked the Sylveon, was really bad. And it really came back to haunt me. But he can just recover stall for a while. I would skip ahead here, except OBS, the system I'm using to record the webcam and the video at the same time, is really shit when it comes to embedded videos, so I can't actually use that. And I'm sorry if my webcam's going darker and darker. It's because my neighbors have these weird blinds, or these weird windows, where I had to actually close my windows because I was getting way too much glare from theirs. I will definitely work towards making the lighting in this room better for future videos. This was very much a test video. As much as anything else, I hope you're enjoying the battles here. But this was very much a test video as much as anything else. So, yeah, he just, again, in the last turn, sorry, that was actually an important turn. I mis-talked, or I just talked through it. The last turn he didn't go for Recover, which I thought he would. And I went for Icy Wind, which allows me here to actually take out the Cobbler. He predicted I would go for Destiny Bond, so he didn't bother recovering, but that actually allows me to win the game. And again, he should fully have been the one to win that game. And the only reason he didn't is because he was unaware at this point how Destiny Bond actually worked. So thanks, Maxis, for the battles. I hope you enjoyed, dude. Like I said at the end of the previous battle, there was actually a third battle to the series, but honestly, he just destroyed me. It was a blowout, and this video is pretty long as it is, so I'm just going to leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first Pokemon battle, and I hope you'll join us for the next one.